Let me begin by saying I was born in 1998. So, this is by far the weirdest experience I've ever had. Anyway, I'm not much of a dreamer, but when I do dream, it's usually very lucid and memorable. So, I had a dream that my mother was alone in a really old, poor looking house with my newborn sister and was waiting for my dad to get home. It was dark out and my mother was anxious because she was waiting at the door hoping my father would show up. The house was a one room structure with only 4 or 5 candles illuminating it. I was casually talking to my mother saying it's all okay and just assuring her that everything is okay. Suddenly, my mother looked at me and was thanking me for being with her while she was alone and for protecting her. Then the next thing I know, I wake up. I thought it was an odd dream, but didn't think much of it after I showered and went to work. Fast forward 3 days, it's a Friday night, and my parents and I are outside in my front yard sitting around a fire talking. And my parents begin to joke about how my mother used to pop my father's bike tires when they lived in Mexico. I asked what's the story behind that, and they begin to explain to me that back when my sister was born in 1991, they lived in an old shack in a poor part of a small town in Mexico for a year. My father had the habit of going out on his bike with friends to drink and not coming home until the next morning, so my mother would pop the tires on his bike so he wouldn't leave. I laughed and didn't think much else until they continued on about it. My mother said she'd be very terrified of being home alone in a tiny home because they lived in the alley known as El Cañón de la Leonora, which translates to Alley of the Weeping Woman. For those unfamiliar, the Weeping Woman is an urban legend in Mexico about a ghost woman who roams areas of Mexico and even parts of the U.S., weeping for her missing kids. So, naturally, an alley named after the ghost is going to be terrifying as heck. My mother continued on saying how terrified she was in that house alone and would wait praying for my father to come home. My father then made a joke saying something along the lines of, "Why did you want me there? You claimed your guardian angel was protecting you." At this point, I thought, okay, what the heck? So I asked my mom more, and she told me that she one night was visited by a man who was seemingly came out of the wall, but she felt comfort and familiarity around him. He sat and spoke to her, reassuring her it's okay before the man seemingly walked back into the wall. My mother said that after she felt a strong calmness around and was no longer of being there. This tripped me out, considering I was born in 98 and I had never heard a thing about my mother's story until after I had that dream. I'm not sure if it's just a coincidence or if it's something more complex.
Okay, now this was a very trippy, good story. He mentioned that he never heard his mother tell him that story until after he had that dream, which is very interesting. And on top of that, I mean, just to pretty much sum up the story, he pretty much had this dream where he was comforting his mother when she was feeling sad, and he noticed that he made her feel better. Then um, he woke up from that dream, and just to mention that when he was dreaming that, well, no, he didn't say he was a ghost or anything when he was dreaming that, but he was in a dream and he, comforted his mother in a dream when she was feeling sad. And then coming to find out, he found out that that actually happened. Like his mother actually said, yeah, like I was actually sad one time during this one particular situation, and the spirit that I was very familiar with came and comforted me, and I, felt better. And yeah, and that whole scenario happened before he was even born. That is just so crazy. Oh my gosh. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Yeah, so if you know anybody else that would be interested in this story, make sure you share this video, like it, comment, subscribe for more videos in the future. Thank you guys. See you guys in the next video.